Okay. And we are back. Welcome to the SoapBox, where people who work, volunteer, and care about recovery tell us who they are and what they're most passionate about. My name is Rich Jones, RN. I represent Parenting Your Child and Recovery.com and the home website, secondstarts.com. That's number two, NDSTARTS.com. Today, my guest is Jocelyne Degroot. Jocelyne, this is going to be a good show, guys. Jocelyne's a mom, a volunteer, and a student studying for her master's in science and psychology at Divine Mercy University. Uh, Jocelyne, hello. Thanks for being here.
Hi, thank you, Rich, for having me.
Okay, great. I just want to tell everybody before we even get started, Jocelyne responded to one of my posts looking for guests. And she immediately let me know that she really wasn't sure whether she wanted to be a guest now, but I could tell she kind of thought about it, but she didn't think she was ready. After I heard her tell me a little bit of her story, I almost insisted that she come on because she has way more experience than she thinks she does. So I'm glad to have you here. Jocelyne, I start off every show by asking everybody to give me that Cliff Notes version of who they are. Tell me who you are, how you got here talking to me, what led you to this point and what you're up to.
Okay, well, I have a background in teaching, but now I'm a student doing a Master of Science in Psychology, as you said. I am interested in studying recovery and addiction and trauma, and that's kind of what my specialization has been in my studies. Um, I am currently working on a study, which I think we'll talk about during the
Yeah.
show.
Mhm.
Um, the reason I think I'm interested in this topic is because um, I, sorry, my puppy wants to come up.
That's okay. We love dogs and cats on this
Um,
show.
yeah. So I'm interested in this topic because I I feel like we have experiences in our lives that um, we can use to help others. And so that's kind of where I'm at. I have experienced trauma in my own life. My own sister, she died of an overdose of
Oh,
fentanyl.
wow.
Um, so so I just really want to help and use the experience that I have to help others.
Okay, all right. Now you mentioned to me. Excuse me, I don't remember you mentioning what kind of teaching. What kind of teaching background? Talk to me about that. What did you teach?
Oh, I used to teach French immersion, grades 7
Wow.
and 8 mostly. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Uh, the-
Mm-hmm.
we love school teachers here. We love school teachers. Uh, had you always wanted to study psychology? Is that something that you had thought about beforehand, or something? How'd that come about?
Well, when I was applying to schools after when I was in high school, applying to post-secondary, I was either going to apply to social work or teaching, work on a teaching
Okay.
degree. And I ultimately chose teaching, but I've always kind of had that interest in helping others. As a teacher, I felt like I was helping the kids. Um, and that's kind of developed since then into yeah, I'm really interested in psychology and helping others that way.
Okay. All right, Johnson. All right, okay. Before we go on, just remind everybody, if you or a parent, a mentor, a practitioner who loves or cares or works with young adults at risk, in trouble, or maybe even currently in treatment, parenting your child in recovery.com is a non-clinical option that accelerates and multiplies results, leading to a more permanent long-term recovery. There'll be links for support staff and links for practitioner staff in the show notes. We're also going to have packed with show notes some things about your program because we want to get to that. So I want to make sure everybody, because he has a couple of things that I want everybody to, really maybe get behind. So we're going to get to that. Right now, I want to put you up on the soapbox, and we're going to talk a little bit about uh, some of your theories and how you feel about recovery things, and things like that. I'm very interested to hear your takes. First
Okay.
thing I want to talk about, and you said something very good. Initiating recovery is con- courageous and heroic. Please expand on me. What brought you to that thought? What do you think about it?
Yeah, I think from what I've read and in my experience dealing with others, um, I think addiction stems from usually trauma, and
Hmm.
it's been a coping mechanism for people. And so it's served a purpose in that way too, as a coping mechanism. And it's really hard to recover and to work through trauma and enter recovery. So I think that is a courageous and heroic thing to do, to embark on that journey and to persevere through it.
Okay, all right. Is your is the direction that you're going on with your psychology really related to trauma? That
Yeah, well, I'm interested in trauma. The study that I'm doing is looking at the motivations for seeking help for substance misuse.
okay.
So I'd like to, I'd like to know what strengths people are using, what character strengths people are using to initiate that recovery process. That's what I'm studying.
Okay. When you had the unfortunate trauma related to your sister, had you had any experience with recovery or substance use before that? Did you know much about it? Were you sort of educated toward it?
I mean, um, not really. I knew I had done some self-study. I have, there are people I know and love that struggle with substance abuse. So, um, I was always kind of interested and, did some self-study. Um, but other than that, I think it was more, the experience with my sister that kind of pushed me into this, made me want to help even more. And, um, because in hindsight, I think um, maybe there could have been something more I could have done for my sister. I did the best I
Mm,
could at the time, but
certainly.
um, yeah, so it's just something that's near and dear to my heart because
Uh,
of that experience. And I know that she suffered a lot, and you know, I never I didn't hold that against her, or
right.
I was never angry with her,
Uh,
because I knew that she was really, really struggling, and that was her coping, and I just really wished that I could do more for her.
okay. All right. You said something interesting to me, and I wrote this down. Yes, heal, grow, and use your learning to help others. Tell me that. And I noticed in our application we talked, you mentioned yourself a lifelong learner. I consider myself a lifelong learner too. So talk to me about that, lifelong learner also.
Yeah, I mean, I'm always learning, and I don't think I'll ever know everything. So, um, it's important to me to listen to others. I love autobiographical stuff. I love
Okay.
hearing people's stories. The study that I'm doing is qualitative, meaning it's people's stories. That's what I'm interested in.
Okay.
It's more than just data. It's people can share their their story, and it's all anonymous. But that's what I'm interested in. I'd like, um, I love hearing about people's experiences, and that's how I learn. And my favorite genre of reading is autobiography. So,
Okay. All
yeah.
right. That's interesting. I find that interesting too, actually. So we had that in common also.
Hmm.
Um, something else you said I want to go over. It says, oh, this is a good one. Recovery and healing should be addressed body, mind, and soul. And that's something that we as a lot of practitioners, they throw that phrase around a lot, but they don't always mean it as much as they should. Tell me what your version of, you know, that complete healing is.
Yeah. Well, I look at it from a, Christian perspective that
Mhm.
we are human beings and that we have a soul, and that um, we are made for relationships with others, and that healing, usually trauma happens within relationship. Those wounds that we have, it happens within relationship.
Yeah.
So healing happens also within relationship. And I think, people can have a therapeutic relationship that can be healing. They can have a relationship with a mentor, or they can have, you know, um, their sponsor, if they're in a 12-step group. These can be healing relationships that can heal the wounds that happened in relationship. So that's part of it. And then also, I believe that God heals. I look at it from a Christian lens,
Mhm.
and I think God gives us grace to be able to heal. So my mission is, I love the passage from Second Corinthians.
Mhm.
Blessed be God, the Father of our Lord Jesus Christ, the Father of mercies and the God of all comfort, who comforts us in our afflictions, so that we can comfort others who are in affliction with the comfort which we ourselves are comforted by God. So I think I touched on this before, is um, experiencing God's comfort in my own life. I want to be able to share that with others. And that's what that passage means to me. And that's what I think my mission is to, bring that comfort to others, and that healing that God has given me, um, and share that with others.
Okay. All right. Okay. Great. Great. Listen, the last soapbox point I want to jump on, it's a little bit of what you've just said, but I find it's interesting. And faith and science are complementary. Not that there's a lot of trouble with it, but I do see the divide between our medical establishment and our mindset establishment. I would say, you know what I mean. I'm dealing with some practitioners now who sort of want to downplay web faith, not just when I say faith, not just Christianity, but any type of mindset or faith. They sort
Mhm.
of like to downplay it. They don't like to downplay it so much that they will come out say they're downplaying it, but they don't give it a lot of credence or enter it into their therapeutic approach. So, in your mind, how you'll be a master's in psychology very shortly. How will you integrate faith and science, even for those that aren't necessarily Christian? But how would you integrate that? How you gonna go about doing that?
Yeah, so the first thing, even, I can offer that faith-based perspective if it's wanted. But even in a secular context, it's the way I would look at other human beings, as made in the divine image and with great dignity. And, I think first and foremost, it would be in the way that in my dealings with them, and in the way that I view them as a human person.
Oh, okay. All right. Very, very, very. That's very nice. So, in your opinion, then, are you telling me that you think that your attitude towards them and how you treat them is basically the way you would deliver that faith for the most part? Because when you're dealing in that psychology realm, you're going to running into all types. You know to be so.
Right. Yeah. Yeah,
Okay.
so
Very.
I mean, if there are people who would like that faith-based lens, I can provide that. If they're not interested in that, then I can leave it out. But ultimately, the way that I treat people and the way that I view them,
Mhm.
as human persons, is not going to change. And the way that I view them, view anybody, is through a Christian lens, that people are made in the image of God, and that they have great dignity, and that we are fallen, but we are redeemed. And there's always, I love your title, Second Starts. There's always
Mm.
hope for everyone, and we can always begin again, no matter what our past has been.
Very, very, very good. Okay. I want to remind everybody we're going to have information in the show notes, especially about the stuff we're getting ready to talk about in the next segment. Also, though, uh, if you are the parent, mentor, or practitioner who loves, cares, or works with young adults at risk, in trouble, or maybe currently even in treatment, parentingyourchildinrecovery.com is a non clinical option that accelerates and multiplies the results you get using evidence-based methods. So they'll be in the show notes. There's information for family members or practitioners that want to work along with us. All right, let's talk about the program. And if anybody, you're noticing I have Jocelyne's email address up. Because when we get done talking about this program, you may have some questions. You may want to communicate with her. We will have information also in the notes about it. But I want to talk about the program and the study. Tell me, you know, sell it to me. Yeah.
Um, well, the program I'm in is at Divine Mercy University. And the reason I chose Divine Mercy is because it is psychology, and it has all of the evidence-based research behind it. And it's an APA accredited program, but it also incorporates that Christian lens that is important to me.
Okay.
And so it comes back again to the faith and science are complementary, because we are human persons and we have body, mind, and soul. If we neglect the soul part, then we're not, I think, speaking to the whole human person, and it's not able to meet people in the truth of who they are. So that's why that was important to me. And my study,
Let's talk
so
about the
I'm
study.
looking, yeah, so I'm looking at, what motivates people to seek help in their struggle with substance use. Um, because I think, as we were saying, is that initiating recovery is heroic, it's courageous, it's a big
Right.
deal, it's a huge thing. And for somebody to get to that point, I think there is, they're exercising character strengths or virtues, if you want to call them that. Um, and so I want to study that more to see how can we, tap into that, to help people on that route to get more people into recovery, into um, long-term health and
Okay.
healing.
Okay. So who could when we have the information for the study, is the study open for anyone who um in recovery or thinks they need recovery, or even know people in recovery? Who exactly is study for exactly?
So I'm looking for people who have struggled with substance use in the past
Mhm.
and who are now in recovery, um, because I want them to be able to look back in hindsight and say what it was that motivated them to start that process of recovery. So anybody who has struggled in the past with substance use, and it can be any substance, it can be tobacco, alcohol, opiates,
Okay.
whatever. Um, and then they have a chance to tell their story, because I'm interested in the story. So it's just an online um, survey, and they'll just go on. It will ask for information about their past substance use, and um, it's anonymous. I'm not collecting
Okay.
any
Well,
names
ask
or
that. Yeah.
identifying data. Yeah.
Okay.
So they'll just tell me a bit about, it's a checklist of the substances that they've maybe struggled with, where they're at now, and then they can fill in this. They can write about their experience with seeking help and what their motivations were, and that's
Oh,
basically it.
all right. Is this something that the school does for each master's in science and psychology program, or is this something initiated by your particular class or yourself? You know, is that something the school does routinely? This
Yeah.
type of survey?
Um, well, it depends on who's studying and what your interests are. So I'm doing the master's thesis route. Not everybody does that one.
Okay.
There's another large assignment project that you can do work on throughout your whole studies, and that's called the capstone. But I chose to do the thesis and to work on this study because it was my interest. And if you do choose to do the thesis route, you pick a topic and you narrow it down, and um, you have a thesis advisor. So a doctor of psychology or a psychologist that kind of guides you through the process and helps you. Um, and so I'm kind of just getting my feet wet with this to see, to
Okay.
try out and and actually do a study because I've never done that before, and write up the results and do the analysis and all of that. So it's something I'll have experience doing now, and I'm actually really enjoying it. I didn't think I would
Okay.
enjoy it as much as I am, but yeah,
Okay. All right. That's very good. I know we spoke. We wanted to see if I could get this show up and on the air so you know they'd be in time for you to get some of these results. So we'll have this on shortly, and we'll also have the link to get to it, and we're also going to put it up on some of our friend sites, and of course our Parenting Your Child Recovery and Second Starts. It'll be up on there too. So I want everybody that wants to contribute to contribute. I think this is probably one of the more noteworthy things I've even been involved with. I think it's great that you're doing this type of work. Again, we
thank
have
you.
her Jocelyn's email address, and I think that's your school email address, even perfect for this.
Yes,
You can correspond with her, and if you have some questions for her, some insights, that would be good. I'm sure she would be, glad to hear some of your thoughts on that subject. Very, very impressive. Something else now. Let's get into the second thing, and I'm really fascinated about this. Tell me about this Tanzania trip. You don't often get a chance to go to Tanzania, I can tell you that. Okay, so what is that about?
So I've been working, also studying, kind of specializing in trauma studies. So, because it's my interest. Um, and so the university goes every summer. They have what they call a summer immersion trip, and it's for course credit. Um, and you go with a team and a psychologist who supervises. And so this year they're going to Tanzania. And so I've signed up to go with them. And so we'll be going to work with Courage Worldwide, which is an organization that works with victims of human trafficking.
Okay.
hmm So we'll
That's
go there and just work there for a few weeks. Um,
okay. And this
yeah.
is funded by who and how? Because
Well,
you're
funded by
accepting
me, but I
donations for
can
this, right?
Yes, yes. So I
Okay,
can
good.
fundraise for this. So I'm
Okay.
hoping that if people here and this is something that they feel they would like to contribute to, they can help pay for my trip, which would be
Okay, and
very
we're definitely going to have
appreciated.
that in the show notes, everybody, and we're going to put that. We'll also put that information up on our sites also, and like I say, I have some friend sites that I've talked to already. We can see if we can spread it around a little bit. We'd love to see
Thank you.
that. Anybody that wants to go to Tanzania to help people should be able to go. I'm a fir I'm a firm believer in that. So
Thank you.
that is very, very interesting. Um, before we go, let's talk about a couple other things. I wanted to ask you, what does Jocelyne do for fun? What does Jocelyne do for relaxation? I
Um,
know you have some kids, right? Some children.
yes.
Okay,
Yes,
so
I've
that
got
takes up
2
that's
kids.
timely.
Yes. Yeah, I mean, in the summer when the weather's nice, we live near the lake, so we like to bike and we go for to the beach and um so we really like to do that. We love kayaking, going camping sometimes. That's not super often, but just love maximizing on that time when it's nice weather to be outside and do things together.
Okay, and what are the ages of your children?
14 and 8.
14 and 8.
Yes.
Amazing. I've had a
Yeah.
14-year-old and I've had an 8-year-old.
Yes.
Okay. All right. And them two mixed together, that's always got to be great. Um,
Yes.
let's you just in some more side stuff. I just want to tell you, my wife's favorite movie of all time is The Sound of Music.
Oh, is
Okay.
it?
Yes.
We have
So you
something
have
in
that in
common.
common. She
Yes.
really loves that. So I mentioned her. I said, I would guess it's The Sound of Music. She said, "Oh, really?" She likes it every time she hears it. So that is great. Jessica, Jessica, I'm sorry, Jocelyne. Let me edit that
Yes.
out. Jocelyne, thank you for being here so much. It meant a lot to me that you would engage with me, because at first I thought, when you first responded to me, I said, "Well, she's not gonna talk back to me because she doesn't think that she's in the position to do this." But I tried to let you know, I think you are in the best position to talk about this kind of stuff, because you're coming to it in a learning volunteer type of mind. And I think that's what we in the recovery space need desperately these days, when it's become so uh, productized and economized, and the whole industry is, you know and a mess of insurance and all of that. It's really good to have somebody bringing some new, fresh views to it. So I want to thank you so much for that. And I want to thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you
Yeah.
for having me.
Yeah. Everybody, remember to check out the email and check out the show notes, and we'll be able to see if we can get Jocelyn on that trip to Tanzania. That's important to me. And we want to get that study responded to too. So I'll be getting that out as soon as possible. So if you're seeing this replay, and I don't know whether to be in time for you or not, but if you are, please go uh, to one of our sites and check it out. We'll be putting up as much as we can to draw as much attention as we can to it. So for myself and Jocelyne, I want to thank everybody for being on the soapbox. And I want to remind everybody, as we always do in closing, to remember to help somebody get better, help somebody stay better, and most importantly, let's help somebody be better. Thank you.
Thank you.